Hi there, this is Felix Imafidon, MD, CEO of reQuid. The idea reQuid started about maybe a year and a couple of months back, when we discovered a certain gap in the crowdfunding market. Of course, in the last 4 years, maybe 5 years, you would have noticed that a handful of companies, decided that they could put some structure around investing in agribusiness, right? So what they did essentially is they identified that the farmers need access to funding, farmers need access to markets, also maybe needed access to quality inputs and all of that, and they decided, okay, maybe we should do something that looks like this. We know people who have the funds, we have the farmers who needed the access to funding and markets and a handful of other things. We could come in between these two parties, right, in such a way that we get some sort of debt financing from the people who have the funds, provide it to the farmers who then go about their farming business and all of that, and then do a handful of activities to assure, that at the end of the day, the farmers come up with some sort of yield that makes a lot of sense, so that farmers are happy, the funders are happy. It was just some very interesting structure that made some sense. Of course, before now, crowdfunding in a handful of other countries had already been happening, but the Nigerian market was kind of ripe for it as well. However, now that came with some sort of risk in itself, where we saw that a lot of people began to see there was opportunity in that space, and people began to flooding, give us ₦1 million, give us 100 million naira in 6 months, we give you X% and all that. Now what we saw was this: people relied a lot more on their friends in doing what is required, which is risk assessment, due diligence on all these different companies that were out there, right? And that wasn't safe, because that your friend tells you that he's received payment 1, 2, 3 times does not guarantee that these companies in question have the right systems in place, processes in place to reduce the risk of you investing your funds with them. And we said, okay, why don't we be that company, right, that is the Amazon, in quotes, for investment, especially for a start in crowdfunding. And we took the idea and said, okay, we set up a risk assessment team that their job will be do the due diligence on crowdfunding companies, and then when these companies meet a certain benchmark, you onboard them on a platform, and then you have a marketplace where investors have the comfort that whatever they're seeing there, the risk is minimized for them and all of that. And on top of that, we said, okay, why not have some kind of secondary market where there's an easy exit process for investors. What that means is, before now, if you invested in an agri-business or an agri-project, for 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, your funds will have to be locked in for that period, right? So a secondary market would now mean that, you could sell off maybe 4 months out of the, into the 1 year, and then somebody else, comes in and enters at that point. So what I just generally did was, it allowed people who could come in at the point of primary insurance, and then people to come in at some point later. Opportunity for everybody. The guy who has already come in wants to exit, and the person who missed out during the primary insurance and wants to enter at some point later. And it's been an exciting 1 year. Learning from all of that process around the things that we did in terms of risk assessment, around the things that we did. In the financial side of things, of secondary market, understanding consumer behavior, investors' behavior. In the last 1 year, I can say that we've helped investors with some kind of confidence and comfort around investing in crowdfunded product, and it's been an exciting 1 year. We're excited to be 1 year now. When we started the idea, of course, when you start an idea, you're not so sure about a handful of things, but you're sure about some things. And then, we'll learn from all of that process. We've been ideating around it. We've been optimizing what we do. The next 1 year is going to be exciting, because there's a lot of things that there's a handful of things that we're looking at doing. Of course, we've been getting questions around how is crowdfunding? What's the future of crowdfunding? Will things change along the line? We've seen a handful of companies who defaulted this year. While we are in that space, we understand some of the things, some of the events that led to all of that. Maybe this might not be the opportunity to share, put some light on that, but we have a white paper that we're working on, which will be available in maybe another week or two. That kind of just puts into perspective some of the events that have unfolded this year that have also affected some of the things that happen in the crowdfunding space, from the the COVID-19 lockdowns, pandemic, and all of that, that in some way or the other affected some farmers, affected food business generally, because of course, like you all know, a lot of restaurants were down, schools were also down. So some of the institutional off-takers for some of these businesses, were affected. Generally that just kind of spiraled back down to affecting food, the whole of the agri food chain, as it were. And then of course there was a drought at some point in the year. There were floods in some part of the country at some point. Yeah, so it's been an interesting year, actually. Interesting in the sense that people have been able to, find confidence or comfort, in lending their funds to farmers in Sokoto, farmers in Kebbi, Ogun State, different parts of the country generally, and then have consistently been rewarded for that funding. While in all of this, businesses have also struggled with being able to fulfill their own obligations and all of that. But yeah, so it's been an exciting 2020. We're looking forward to a more exciting 2021. There's a lot that we've learned this year, and we're taking all of those learnings into the next year in terms of how our products work, in terms of the kind of products that we also have out there. Big thank you to the team. You guys have done great. You guys have built this beautiful product. We wouldn't have come this far without you. I have a very amazing team, and I'm so grateful to God for all of that. I also want to thank my investors. You guys had confidence in us. You believed in our value proposition. You believed that we could, we will deliver on our promise. And then, in the last 1 year, we've done our best to do that. But thank you as well to the regulator, who is, the Securities and Exchange Commission, who is doing a lot, in trying to put some sort of sanity in that space, with the kind of rules and policies that are coming up with as to how things work in the crowdfunding space. We're hoping that in 2021, hopefully the rule is available. That will also help to kind of cement, some of the things that we believe in that should happen better, right? In terms of, who plays in that space, how things play in that space, and even much more important, how investors are, better protected and all of that. Thank you everyone for having been with us at reQuid. We're hoping that in 2021 you guys will achieve more of your dreams as you put your money to work.